As always, it's our privilege, it's our pleasure, and it's a great opportunity to be able to come into your homes, be able to come into your devices, into your jobs, or whatever space you occupy, and give you 15 minutes of daily inspiration. I'm excited and I'm honored to be your pastor of internet and innovation, Kervance Ross, and you're tuned in. You know where you are. You're on the New Birth platform. Our senior pastor, Dr. Jamal Bryant, provides us with the opportunity to not just do church on Sunday, but to serve every day of the week. And we're thankful that you've tuned in for this moment. If you do exactly what you know we do on this platform, if you tag 10 people, if you would share with 10 people, and if you text 10 people and let them know, hey, New Birth is on and it's time for your daily inspiration. It's lunchtime. Let us come into this place and get clear direction on our purpose, on our life plan, on our business plan. You know what we do. I'm asking if you take a moment to follow me on all platforms, social media, at I am Kervance Ross. That's I am Kervance Ross. You meet me there, and I'll give you something that'll keep you inspired, keep you clear, and keep you directed towards your purpose. And if you have not downloaded the New Birth app, something is wrong with you. Take a moment, download the app, and allow us to be a part of your life on a different platform through a different application. As you know, if you've tuned in any amount of time, I am on a series, part 5 of Success Beyond the System. Thank you so much for telling me through instant messages, direct messages, emails, text, and post about how this series has been blessing and impacting you in a major way. You realize by now that you can have success beyond the systems that have held you fast. And this particular installment of Success Beyond the Systems is called How to Build a Ride or Die Team. I said it, how to build a ride or die team. One of the biggest obstacles and pitfalls when it comes down to purpose, to your business plan, to your life plan, is many of us think we can do it by ourselves. And the mistake we make is we don't build a team around us. They say that it is lonely at the top, and it's only lonely when you don't take anybody with you. And this is a segment, a session that you need to pull out your notes and make sure you're getting everything you need to show yourself through this inspiration, how to build a ride or die team. And as you see on the backdrop, I'm not a huge fan of this team. I'm not throwing shade. I am honoring the fact that the Golden State Warriors, I believe it was 2015 through 2016 season, broke my favorite basketball player of all time and the Chicago Bulls record of 72-10 by going 73-9. And if you followed that team for any amount of time, they built a team with the right pieces. Mark Jackson was the coach prior to their success. Mark Jackson was a phenomenal point guard for the New York Knicks. I thought he did an amazing job cultivating Steph Curry and professing an organizational process for a team to go further than they had gone. If you remember, the Golden State Warriors weren't a great threat in the West prior to Mark Jackson coming. But something about his coaching style, many could argue different points of view, he never got them over the proverbial hump. And when they released Mark Jackson, they brought in a gentleman named Steve Kerr. Not a star basketball player, but played on a record-setting team. And it was literally one of his first coaching opportunities. And because of what he put together, building a team, they created a dynasty that changed how we see professional basketball. They played a totally different brand of basketball that was refreshing, that averaged high scores. It galvanized an entire city, and it changed everything about the game of basketball. But it was the core component of building what I call a ride or die team. We need to make sure that we follow the same blueprint of the Golden State Warriors, because we need sometimes to get the right people on the bus and get the wrong people off the bus. And that's hard to digest because sometimes we believe that pulling people off the bus is a negative. No knock on Mark Jackson. He's a man of faith. I'm a fan of Mark Jackson. But you cannot shake the reality that pulling one person off the bus and putting another person on the bus changed how the team operated. Then we need to get the right people in the right seats on the bus, because it's not always that you got the wrong players. You may just have them in the wrong positions. I'll say it again. It's not that you have the wrong players. You might just have the right players in the wrong position. And to make sure that you understand this component, I don't want to take it for granted that everybody knows what ride or die is. This is a term that DMX was able to make famous a couple of years ago, an individual or a group of people who are down with you no matter what the case is. They are connected to you. They are a part of your process. They are a part of your dream. They are a part of your vision, and nothing can shake them from journeying with you. When you think about this, you've got to be careful as you build these teams to make sure you got the right people on the right bus, in the right seats for the right journey. And your actions and your activity do not necessarily equate to progress. Your actions or your activities don't necessarily equate to process or progress. You can have the right people on the team, you can have them in the right seats, but just because you're moving does not mean you're progressing. You've got to understand all these components as you build a ride or die team. And let me start, because I know we have people trying to build a business, people trying to build a vision, people trying to build ministry, and the stuff has shifted and changed in the last 90 or so days. How you saw your team pre-COVID looks totally different than how you see it during COVID. And when you are hiring or building, adding people to the team, there are a few things you've got to consider. Number one, you've got to consider their character. I said, number one, you've got to consider their character. Ask yourself, when it comes down to the component of character, can I trust you? Can I depend on you to do what you said you would do? Your character determines how far we can go in this culture. Number two, when you're hiring people or building people into your team, not only must you look at character, but you must look at confidence. Can they do their job? Do they need somebody directing them to every component of the job function? Can you give them an assignment, give them a trustworthy perspective, give them a time frame, and understand that I'm confident that you can do the job that you told me or spoke about being able to do? Not only are you looking at character, not only are you looking at confidence, but to have that ride or die team, you've got to look at chemistry. Do you fit here? This is an important part, because many of us don't realize you can fit somewhere else and not fit here. And this is a key portion of this process when you're building the ride or die team. They could be effective in another space, on another team, at another time, and see great success. The challenge is that does not necessarily mean that they will fit your team for your time and your success. Finally, you've got to be able to ask about capacity. Can they grow with us? Sometimes people are at their capacity when you pull them to your team, when you're building your team. They want to be able to ride, but they have filled up to the brim. They can't go any further. This is as much as they can do. And these four components will help us understand how to hire, how to put together and build that team. On the flip side, there are four harsh realities in growing a team that you must be aware of and must consider. The first harsh reality is there are problems of coordination and communication that are often magnified. I said there are problems of coordination and communication that can be magnified. One of my pet peeves is poor communication. And what you don't realize is when you're trying to coordinate and communicate at the same time, problems can be magnified. Poor communication can change the effectiveness of a ride or die team. Poor coordination can affect the success of a ride or die team. And when both of those or one of those are off, what you'll find is problems can be magnified. The other harsh reality of growing and developing a ride or die team is that new functions emerge. And I know you'll be able to testify in this reality that since COVID, some new functions in your business, some new functions in your plan, some new functions in your ministry have arisen that didn't come to fruition before COVID. You got to realize that time, circumstances, unexpected situations can allow new functions to arise, and people who were ride or die with other functions may not be ride or die in the new functions that have come to fruition. Thirdly, levels in management hierarchy multiply. See, what we misunderstand oftentimes, we've been seduced into believing that you manage people and you lead projects. But let me help you understand, you cannot manage people. You manage projects and lead people. And often the mistake that we make is we put people who are good at managing projects over people. Say it again. You put people who are good at managing projects over people. And when the management hierarchy is multiplied, they are okay with multiple projects, but they are not okay with multiple people. And the harsh reality is things can get out of hand. And fourthly, jobs become interrelated. Sometimes we are seduced into believing that if I get hired for one thing, that this is the space and the lane that I'll maintain. But sometimes you'll realize when you're building a ride or die team, you've got to be flexible to find that some of your roles will interrelate with other roles. And when you realize these harsh realities, the most important decision that leaders make is to select the right helpers. If they don't have the right people holding their ladder, their entire project could fall to pieces. And many times it's not that you don't have a great team, it's not that you don't have great people, but you have not made the decision to put the right support around it all. And the first thing I've got to ask to get us to this point as we close it out, how did Jesus choose followers? If this were a wristband, it would say HDJC. How did Jesus choose? And I want to give you some scripture to help you understand. Luke chapter 5, verse 10 says, "And so was also James and John, the sons of Zebedee, which were partners with Simon. And Jesus said unto Simon, Fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men." Luke chapter 5, verse 27 and 28, "And after these things he went forth and saw a publican named Levi sitting at the receipt of customs. And he said unto him, Follow me. And he left all and rose up and followed him." What you'll realize is that Jesus does a few things when he is developing a team. He develops common partnerships. I said he develops common partnerships. When he chose Peter, James, and John, what he realized is they have been entrepreneurs in the same area. They are all fishermen. They're in this culture, in this time frame, a fisherman was not a first-time fisherman. His father was generally a fisherman. The grandfather was a fisherman. The great-grandfather were fishermen, and they fished in the same vicinity. So they understand entrepreneurship. They understand how to launch out into the deep. They understand how to get along with each other. And on purpose, the first three people he selects have common partnerships. And the mistake that you can make is hiring people who have no common partnerships. You will find collisions when you have individuals with no common partnerships. But not only does he hire people with common partnerships, he recruited with a purpose in mind. He knew that if he could find people who could fish for fish, he could ultimately get them to fish for men. They understood where to drop their nets in the water. He could definitely teach them where to drop their nets for men. He realizes that there's a common or recruited purpose in mind. But finally, he moved ladder holders to ladder climbers. Jesus didn't keep them as disciples. He cultivated them to the point that one day when I'm no longer here, you can stand in my role. You shouldn't stay holding the ladder. You should ultimately get to the space where you're on the ladder. And if you're going to build a ride or die team, You've got to find common partnerships. You've got to recruit with a purpose in mind, and you've got to move your ladder holders to ladder climbers. Ultimately, with this, you'll be able to get what I call a ride or die team, and you will find yourself with success beyond the system. I'm out of my time. I thank you so much for tuning in for this practical, insightful, and purposeful message so that you will have a team around you where you won't have to do it all by yourself. And much like what we've directed you to do, much like what God has inspired me to give you, we don't want you operating all alone. You have a team that we want you to be connected to. If you are inspired and impacted by this message and realize that God is building a team around you, why don't you connect with the team here at New Birth? Understanding that God is allowing us to do great things in the kingdom, and we need you. If you would just go to newbirth.org and hit the join button, and you can now be a partner in our Ride or Die team. On top of that, you can invest in a team that is serious about the growth of the kingdom. If you would take your moment right now and just pull out your device and text NBGIVE to 77977, and you can invest in this kingdom of God here at New Birth as we continue to take God global. And more importantly, if you need prayer, take a moment to email us at prayer@newbirth.org, and we have intercessors right there waiting to pray on your behalf. I thank you for always tuning in. I thank you for sharing. I thank you for texting. I thank you for tagging. Continue to allow this message to go all over the globe. Allow it to impact your circle, and never stop building your Ride or Die team. I'm your pastor of Internet and Innovation, Kervance Ross. I love you for real, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Have a drama-free, virus-free remainder of the day, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.